what's up, man? You do these tours, and you were mentioning that, the new headmaster. I don't think they call it a headmaster.
President of Education.
President of Education.
Could be that.
Of the University
Teresa
of Tampa.
Dahlberg. She. So we were talking about it off camera. Literally, I do these tours every day. I mean, they're available 7 days a week, 11 a.m. and in the winter, 2 p.m. too. So I have random people just show up, and they're from Wichita, Kansas, or wherever. And this woman comes on her tour with her husband, and there was a big group of people, and I just do it just like every other tour. At the end of the tour, her husband pulls me aside and goes, "I just want you to know that's the new president of University of Tampa." And I'm like, what did I say? I want to make sure everything's good, right? He's like, "No, you did fantastic. Everything's great." A little while after that, she talks to Eric Cardenas over at the school. He reaches out to me. Now we're putting together a tour of University of Tampa for the historic aspect of it. They already have an academic tour.
Sure.
Where, hey, your child's going to learn this and stay here and meet friends. We have extra, intramurals and whatnot, but they don't really talk a whole lot about the historic aspect of Henry Plant, the Tampa Bay Hotel. I mean, the place was like Disney before Disney.
Yeah, what exactly, so people can understand, it wasn't really just a hotel. It was basically a resort.
Right.
I went to that museum they have there, and they have a list of excursions, basically, or amenities people used to do. There used to be hunting trips. They had this prairie hunting trip.
You could rent a dog and go
rent
hunting.
a dog and go hunting. And I think they had some sort of dolphin watching or something like that.
It was not a place where you went for the weekend. These days, of course, with air travel and whatnot, you could fly to Milan for the weekend.
Right.
Sounds great. God bless you if you can do it. But yeah, the University of Tampa, when it was the Tampa Bay Hotel, you went there for the winter. You brought your whole family down. You packed tons of suitcases like you see in the old movies where the ushers pushing the suitcases on a big cart.
Pull up that picture right here, David. Where's my damn laser pointer?
There you go.
Shout out Karen Kress. Our super deluxe laser pointer right here,
there
David.
You go. Yes.
Yeah, look at that, man. And by the way, and this is another little picky thing.
And this is, I think, from their website, because the museum itself, if anybody in Tampa has not been to that museum, I mean, you're missing out on probably the best experience you could have for history in Tampa, Florida.
And it's such an iconic building. I think anyone that visits Tampa goes,
Right.
well, what the hell is that? Right?
Exactly.
It's such a unique building.
People drive by it and go, there's some castle in the middle of downtown.
So here's my thing, okay? Right now, we do not get that view. That garden area in the front has completely overgrown over the last 100+ years.
Right.
The trees are very tall, and it's hard to see the building. You can see the minarets.
Yes.
But look at that view, how
I know.
grand that used to be. I mean, imagine pulling up on Tampa in the late 1800s, and you look across the Hillsborough River and you see that building.
Well, as somebody, I get a lot of cruises that come in, and I do bus tours with companies that come this way. And these are people coming from Europe and different places around the world. And as soon as I talk to a little bit about the University of Tampa, we're going to go see it. They're like, sure, sure, sure. When we pull up to it, I go, and there it is. And their eyes go, whoa, because they're not expecting to see something like this in America.
Yeah, it is very European.
Very Eastern European with the minarets. It's got the Italian Renaissance style with the curvature of the brick. When Henry Plant built this, he wanted it to be the peak of luxury. We talked before on your podcast about his rivalry with Flagler, and anything Flagler did, he would do it, and vice versa. He was like, when people come to my hotel, they're going to go, Flagler who? And
Right.
he wanted to just really outdo everything that Flagler was doing.
And this thing had a train terminal in the back, right?
That was the main way to get there.
So you would come down from New York or whatever, take a 3-day train, something like that?
Yeah, probably. And but you arrived by train on the back side of the hotel, so you didn't even see this part. All this is gorgeously on the front side of it, but the train station would be behind it. You'd come in, you'd walk your way towards the through the garden and see all the great amenities, and then you get to go to the front where you'd check in and see how gorgeous it is from the front with the fountain, statues everywhere.
Look at some more of those photos on this little. Why am I pointing when I have a laser pointer?
You got a laser pointer.
Yeah, down here. I mean, some of these old photos are so. It almost, it's like a Grey Gardens mystical vibe. Right. There's a jungle and a river and this Moorish architecture. And I mean, in the 1800s, where else could you find something like that? It's so unique.
Not in the United States. Of course, this isn't even that old of a building. It was 1890s, I want to say, when they did it officially. But you can think about you go to northeastern part of the United States, you're going to see buildings from 1690 something or 1700, but they don't look like this.
No. People were so ambitious to build something grand back then too. I mean, if you look at architecture in Tampa like this or around the country, it always from this era is just extravagant. I mean,
Yes.
all the details in the brick, like this picture right now David has pulled up. This
That's
looks
amazing.
like,
Yeah.
maybe when it was just constructed, right?
Hmm.
Because you have the new landscaping and stuff like that.
Right.
But look at the intricate details on the windows and I mean, the minarets are of course amazing, and it's
Right.
it's kind of incredible to look at.
No, they do an architecture tour of UT too, which I highly recommend people to take. And honestly, I could look all day at this building and not see everything.
Right.
It's just put together that way. And like you said, back in that time, if you had the money to do it, you wanted to.
Right.
They wanted to build something that their great great grandkids would visit, which here it is, still standing.
Go to the museum. I think it's like I think it's this one right here. Yeah, so if
Hmm.
people want to go check this out, it's at Plant Hall, which is
Right.
that main beautiful building, formerly the Tampa Bay Hotel. And I think it's on what would that be? The south side,
Yeah.
right? Like when you pull up, it's on your
Just
left.
off Kennedy Boulevard.
And I'm pretty sure it's open all day, every day,
No, I
right?
don't think it is. Let's just say 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Oh, they have a
Let's see.
seasonal
Yeah.
sort of schedule here, but
And they do different themes. Christmas one, the Victorian Christmas, you can't beat that.
oh,
But
I know, it's
they do
beautiful.
all kinds of great themes. Halloween, they do a little something too. But yeah, like I said, they've been helping me out quite a bit. They gave me a lot of resources to look through as I put together this tour for them, because naturally they want it to be the best they can do.
And what will this tour sort of focus on? I mean, the building specifically?
Yeah, well, not just the building, but Henry Plant himself, the godfather of Tampa, as I call him, and some of the reasons why he wanted to do all this. Why pick Tampa, Florida? Why this weird little swampy backwater town that had Fort Brooke? It wasn't even really set to be anything except a demolished fort for a while. But when Henry Plant came in this way, putting together the port, the rail line, the beautiful hotel, it put Tampa on the map as a destination.
And why did he choose Tampa?
Better question as to why he picked Tampa, Florida is probably because there was a lot of opportunity. I mean, think about somebody who, you're in development, you go to a place that's like, man, I don't know if I want to buy a house in this area. It's a little rough around the edges, but the price is right and I can develop the area around it. You know what? I'm going to buy it all up and make this beautiful. And that's what he did. The same way like some entrepreneurs do, like Daryl's doing in Ybor and stuff like that. And Ybor wasn't really falling apart when Daryl got involved, but he wanted to turn it into like, I want the reputation to change around here and make it like, oh, you have to go to the Henry Plant Hotel.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So he came down and saw maybe a swampy area of Florida, but
Yeah.
tons of opportunity.
Yeah, because before him, like I said, Fort Brooke we weren't even really Tampa on the map in some places.
Did Henry Plant come before Ybor?
Yeah, it was about the same time. Henry Plant is mainly the reason why Ybor wanted to come here. I mean, the port, the deepwater port, and the rail line really made a difference for Ybor because in Key West, I mean, sure, you can make cigars, and he was really wealthy. He could have just counted the money till he died, Mr. Ybor. But he wanted to.
So he was already wealthy.
Oh, yeah. The Prince of Wales, El Príncipe de Gales, one of the best cigars in the world at the time.
So he was a wealthy man that came here because of that infrastructure that would support his
Right.
manufacturing.
Well, he actually, and many people probably know this, he was going to go to Galveston, Texas. His whole idea was like, Galveston, it's a booming city. It's got a port right there on the Gulf. I can get all my Cuban supplies. But then a man named Gavino Gutierrez came down to Tampa, Florida, looking for guavas. He saw no guavas, but he did notice, man, there's a rail line being built here. There's a deepwater port I just came into. There's a big river. There's humidity. This would be a good spot for cigars. And he happened to know Mr. Ybor mostly because he kind of grew up around Mr. Ybor. He was a much younger man than Mr. Ybor, but he goes down to Key West with a buddy of his. They end up talking with Ybor and Ignacio Aya and a couple other people. And they say, if you're thinking about moving, Galveston sounds great, but there's a place I just came from that's got a whole lot of potential. Sure, it had Mr. Plant's hotel being built, but nobody lived there. I mean, the population when Mr. Ybor came here, around like 700 people.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And most of them were leaving in the summer because it was too hot to hang out at the hotel.
So why is Tampa called the Big Guava if there's no guavas?
Exactly that. So funny enough, propaganda does work. And so let me tell you about Gavino Gutierrez a little bit. Gavino Gutierrez is one of the most unsung heroes in Tampa history, and there's a bust of him outside of Centro Asturiano. But Gavino was this kid. He was from Spain, grew up in Cuba, though, so he was mostly like, I'm Cuban, And when he grew up around Mr. Ybor, he eventually went up to New York City and went to Columbia University to become a civil engineer. But he got a job, like most college kids do, importing tropical fruit, selling it all around Manhattan. And a friend of his one day finds this postcard, It was an idea from the Tampa Council or the Board of Trade that they wanted to like send out postcards saying we have a lustrous fruit, especially the beautiful guava. Which I think maybe we probably had a couple of guava trees, but no, this wasn't like a giant jungle of guava. However, they see this postcard and they're like nudging each other going, we can cut out a middleman. We go down to this place called Tampa. We're going to make a fortune. So they came down here. They spent all their money. They're like, we're going to go make a bunch of money. And then they're like, there's no fruit.
Where's the guava? There's just no guava trees at all.
So literally, if it wasn't for this accidental trip down to Key West for Gavino and meeting Mr. Ybor, Gavino Gutierrez might have just gone back to Colombia and did something up north.
So the big guava, it's almost like a metaphor for like something gilded, right? Like something where you perceive something will be amazing and fantastic, and you get there and it's like, wait a second, this is like a mosquito infested place.
Yes.
How many people lived in Tampa at the time? Like you said, 700.
Boy, about 700. And I'm not even sure how accurate that number is. That's what everybody says because that's what it says here and there on the books. But even then, most of the people here were dying from yellow fever. So
I think there's a postcard. I might butcher this. I read it somewhere. Maybe it was online. Maybe it was at the Henry Plant Museum. But it mentions what Tampa was. Like, it describes how Ybor was completely disconnected from downtown.
Yeah, was its own entity, but only for a couple of years.
Like, you had to go through the woods, basically, to get to Ybor City from
Ybor
Tampa.
was the woods. Yes. I mean,
there was a lake where Centro Ybor is with a little bridge going over it.
Right, where the
alligators
castle is
would
today.
hang out. Yeah.
Yes, there was literally a freshwater spring where people would get their water, and they built the building on top of the spring. And actually, I think they forgot to cap the spring, and that's why there's so much like issues with the building. It still kind of moves a little bit here and there. There's water that will build up and leak out of the bricks. I think it was called the Weeping Building by Ripley's, believe it or not, in the 90s.
The Weeping Building?
Because it sometimes will look like it's crying.
See if you can find that. That's wild. Yeah. So appropriate there for the castle,
know,
right?
Yeah.
To have that.
The Weeping Building, that's a perfect nickname for a goth club, yeah.
Dude, that's amazing. So, and then as this is all in the same time, right? Like Henry Plant, this guava situation in Ybor is all in what, the late 1800s?
Late 1800s. Reconstruction of the South had kind of kicked off a little bit. Industry was big, and we had to do something besides cotton in the South, of course. And we had cattle here in Florida and some tropical fruit here and there. A lot of fishermen, actually, funny enough, the way that Cuba, we used to get Cuban tobacco, Cuban fishermen used to wake up early in the morning, go to the Bay Area and try and catch grouper, conch, shrimp, whatever, sell it in Havana the same day. So fresh fish straight from Tampa Bay was actually a big deal in Cuba. But Tampa wasn't anything except for a fishing backwater town. I mean,
they sailed from Tampa Bay down to Cuba? And
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Did you know there used to be a one-day trip?
I guess it wouldn't be sailing, right? They'd have powered
no, they could do,
ships
yeah.
by
They
then.
They would have some power. But there used to be, I don't know what the year was, but there was years where there was a ferry that would go back and forth from Havana to Tampa. And you could take it, for the day.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wasn't that Mascot, the name of the ship
Yes.
on the seal of the city of Tampa?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Type in the seal of the city of Tampa, David.
Mm-hmm.
See if you can pull that up. Because there's a boat on our seal. It says Mascot. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, that's our mascot. Right? But the name of the ship was Mascot.
Right.
Yeah, that thing right there.
Mascot thing, yeah.
Mascate, is that how you pronounce it?
I think so, yeah. But I do
Sounds
love our
right.
seal. It's pretty nice.
So what was Mascate?
Now that I'd have to look into. To be honest with you, I'm not sure about that.
But it must have been some sort of
It had to be a vessel that went back and around. And our port was a very important part of the reason why Tampa is such a big deal now,
Right.
Like the port itself still today is one of the biggest ports in the South.
Well, if you think about Tampa Bay, right? This sort of natural bay we have is really unique. I mean, think of other places around the world that have these big harbors, like Sydney Harbor and New York Harbor, Boston Harbor. And then San Francisco. It's kind of a rarity to have such a large bay like this.
Right.
So back then, when it was all about shipping and railroads, this was probably seen like, oh my God, this is like the most perfect natural environment we could have to manufacture things and ship things.
Henry Plant really struck gold when he started building the port and everything like that. Because I don't know if he knew that the Gulf was going to be that lustrous, but to connect yourself to the Caribbean like that, genius. Absolutely genius.
Yeah, I've said it before on the podcast, and I'd have to look it up, but there's this there's a quote from the Tampa Tribune from the late 1800s where Henry, it's like the ribbon cutting or whatever for the Tampa Bay Hotel. And Henry Plant says something about how this city is destined to be the golden metropolis of the Gulf states. Like, he really saw a vision for this port and for this city so long ago.
Which is impressive, because vision like that, it's hard to find these days. I mean, vision like him, Mr. Ybor, even the building of West Tampa and the outskirts of Tampa today. Look how big Carrollwood's growing and everything like that. You know, it's really impressive the way that people can do that.
Yeah, we're still on the come up. That's for sure.
Yep. No, I think the future's bright as far as that's concerned.
I think so too. So why did Henry Plant and Henry Flagler have a rivalry, and why did they stick to either side of Florida? Have they done any projects, together or in the same city?
Together, I doubt it. In the same city, definitely not. But they were literal, like, friendly rivals from the Northeast. I think Connecticut railroad men, came from big money. Henry Flagler got very famous as he connected like the Keys to St. Augustine and built that big hotel, which is Flagler College now. And Henry Plant, who was like, well, I can do that too, but I'll do it on the west side. I think he just got very lucky, and there's Flagler himself. Actually, if you look up Flagler College, you'll get an idea of the University of Tampa versus.
Bro, how is there not a movie with these two titans battling it out?
Right, a movie needs to happen. There is a great book called The Two Henrys, which I highly recommend if you want to read that.
I'm gonna write that down.
And I think there was a brewery that made beer about it. Yeah, but anyway, look, that's Flagler College. It's gorgeous.
You remember that movie There Will Be Blood?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Like Daniel Day-Lewis plays Flagler or something like that. Wouldn't that be interesting?
But
look at the architecture these guys built, man. And the breakers, right, in Palm Beach. Wasn't there another one in like Coconut Grove? Wasn't there a hotel down there that was built during that era? There's a few of these properties around Florida, though, and they're just freaking magnificent.
The genius of this peninsula was that when they did make it a state in the early 1800s, it was like, yeah, but nobody wants to be down there with a bunch of alligators and freaking giant birds and everything. They decided, well, what if we start putting palm trees around, make it look kind of like Cuba? What if we put palm trees around, make it look like other Caribbean destinations? What if we make it, hey, you want to go to these amazing exotic lands? Well, we have it right here in America. Come to Florida. And it became like this vacation destination, which still today, Sarasota, places like that are huge vacation destinations.
It's interesting you bring up the palm trees, because if you look at old pictures of Tampa, it was like pine trees, oak trees, sandy shores. I mean, it was kind of a different,
a lot of moss
landscape.
Hanging from the trees. Yeah. It was not like this.
No, not at all.
This is obviously St. Augustine, but like, I mean, palm trees and all that. It was a great idea to let's turn this swamp into a Caribbean destination, which we're not the Caribbean. We're above all that, and we have a very different animal source and whatnot, but we have a same kind of climate, just, same kind of humidity. We can make it feel like you're in Dominican Republic if you don't want to go there.
Weren't these guys kind of young too?
For the most part. I mean,
I guess back then.
Yeah. They had so much money, though. I mean, you could live forever back then. Like Mr. Ybor living to be 78 that's like 98 today.
Right. Yeah. So Ybor, let's talk about Ybor. I think it's so fascinating how he just makes this bet basically on an area where he has a big vision for.
And threw not all of his money, but most of his fortune at it,
Is that true? Most of his fortune. So at that time he made this wasn't like a sideshow. This was a huge commitment.
This was his legacy. He not only built the factories and invited factory rollers to come this way and whatnot. Hold on, that's my dad right there. Hold on. If you go to the right. Right that's him. Yeah, that's my dad.
I love it.
Look, what a legend.
Your dad started off the walking tours,
right? He started the walking tours. That's him in Tabanero.
And you guys are two generations, man.
Yeah, man. He hasn't done a tour since 2018-ish, I want to say. Look at him. Still looking good, though.
Still looking great.
But anyway, I'm sorry. Where was I? Mr. Ybor. He also built, he helped save the Bank of Tampa, him and Haya. They put together the brewery of Tampa because he heard that Americans like beer, just like throwing money at this thing, ice factory, everything you could think of to build a town, and then inviting these people to get a house at a no interest loan, which good luck getting that anywhere.
It's kind of fascinating to me that on this show all the time we talk about real estate development, of course, right? We're the Tampa Bay Developer Podcast. Yep. And so in these projects, these large developers are including so many different things. And they have a very holistic approach to whatever they're trying to build. It seems like these large developers don't just build one thing you drive to and hang out at and leave. It's really fascinating. Like in the 1800s, there was a guy who had that same vision and knew, hey, I can't just build the cigar factories. right? I've got to build the supporting things around the cigar factories. What are the people
Houses,
going to do?
social clubs,
Breweries.
breweries.
Where are people going to get money
We need
lent to them?
shoemakers. We need tailors. We need all
Yeah.
kinds of things like that.
What a pioneer, man.
hmm
And so are there any pictures or anything that has Ybor with plant? Like, did they
I don't know if
collaborate?
they ever worked together, to be honest with you. I wonder if there is pictures of them together. I highly doubt it. Ybor, I think he was, well, first of all, he was pretty old when he arrived. He was 68, which is very old back then. So I think it was more of an idea like, I'm just going to sit in my office and sign these checks and make sure everything that I want to happen happens. He had a good team around him.
Mhm.
He had Manara. He had I think I'm saying that wrong. Anyway, he had also like Gutierrez, all these people around him that would be like, "Hey, here's the idea. Here's the blueprints. Approve it, and we're good." It was kind of like that. And he really did a very good job of putting this together. Even the Cherokee Club, the El Pasaje, which if you want to see that building, it's my favorite building in Ybor City. That was kind of his idea to make sure that his team had a beautiful place to like plan all their work and stuff like that. It's right there next to his factory. It's
What's the name of it?
look up the El Pasaje because
El Pasaje.
it was called that's the passage. It was a restaurant, a hotel, a boarding home. A lot of governors have been there. A lot of famous people have visited. Teddy Roosevelt visited there. I mean, honestly, it was a happening spot. It might just be because after a while it became overrun with mafia activity, but
Oh, jeez.
prohibition times it was like untouched.
That was probably my people, the
Yeah,
Sicilians.
maybe. But it was famously had a bordello up top and a illegal gambling ring in the bottom. El Pasaje. That's Elpasajae.
David's Ukrainian, which is
Ah.
like the furthest thing away from any sort of Latin culture name at all. Spell it again.
Elpasajae. El Pasaje. If that
I'm
doesn't come
ashamed
up,
to
type
say I
in the
haven't heard
Cherokee
of them.
Club.
The Cherokee
Oh, once you
Club.
see the building, you go, I know that building.
Okay.
There it is right there. That's it.
With the arches. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, the
Oh,
beautiful
yeah.
arches, very, very gorgeous building, curved brick, marble pillars. This was the first building in Tampa to have stained glass windows, and every single window was a different design.
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get a close up on the windows, but it people have their
Has that been
graduation
changed?
photos. No, other than a couple spots where there was some damage from hurricanes and stuff, but everything you see there would be
God,
original.
that's gorgeous.
It's
Look at
amazing.
that, man.
Yeah.
Really, really beautiful.
I have architects come on my tour, and when they get to this, they go, "I only see buildings like this in Florence." I mean, this is very rare to see in America.
Why was the architecture so unique to this area? Is it because they came from, Cuba and
Right.
Italy and these places that already had more intricate architecture? Because it is very
Absolutely.
unique to
Yeah.
Ybor City.
It is, and you got to appreciate how unique it is, and that kind of helped the melting pot, especially as you said, helped big time. These people wanted to have something. They were like, "Oh, you think that's fancy? I'll show you fancy."
Show this one, David, with the streetcar in front
Oh
of
yeah,
it.
that's an old God. That's the original Tampa streetcar on the top left.
Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah,
God,
man.
that's an old,
Look at the
old
dirty
photo.
road, barely has any brick down still.
Wow.
Man, oh man.
Gas street lights,
Yeah.
too, probably.
Yeah, the lampposts were still gas back
That's one of
then.
my favorite stories my great grandmother ever told me was when she was a little girl, she would look out the window of her house and watch the lamplighters light the oil lamps at dusk.
Yeah.
I always thought that was so interesting as a little boy hearing that. It's like mind blowing. Like, wait a second. They had oil in street lamps that
Yeah.
they would physically go around and light at every night. It's
Incredible.
to think about that world, man. And
Well-
really not that long ago. I mean,
Yeah,
100 years
100
ago?
years ago, and not only that, but these people, a lot of people that came to Ybor City with the vision of America, they were coming from war-torn poverty, dirt floors in their home. Suddenly, you're in this place where you have a casita with stairs that go up, and you don't have to worry about dirt on your floor. You don't have to worry about any critters coming up on your porch. Then you go to work, and you go to buildings like this one,
Right.
all around you. I mean, you found paradise in America. You're watching those lights get those lamps get lit, and you're thinking, man, this is a whole different world from where I came from.
How did the news spread, right? I mean, this is obviously way before the internet.
Yeah.
Like, you talked about the Big Guava, which was a sort of like marketing
Right.
campaign.
Mhm.
I mean, is that what Ybor did? He put out marketing to Spain and
Well, mostly not to Spain or anything like that. What he did was he went to the ports, the big ports, New York City, Chicago area. He went to New Orleans. That's why we have such a New Orleans aspect to it. He hired people who spoke Italian, French, German, Romanian, any language they could think of. scream at the top of your lungs, if you're looking for work in the new world, you can migrate to Ybor because no matter your language, there's 100% employment available. And you're hearing that in your language and you're going, well, that's what I need. I mean, maybe I'll go to New York City. Maybe I'll find a job and stay in a tiny little apartment. And then someone says, no, you go to Ybor, you get a guaranteed job. Somebody's got to roll these cigars. Somebody's got to put these bricks down. People rushed here in droves. Remember I said it was 700 people in 1885 when Mr. Ybor came this way? By 1895, he had over 15,000 people.
That's
Tampa.
insane.
Yeah. It's a huge explosion.
So a 20x or whatever.
Exactly.
Population increase in 10 years.
It's pretty.
True boom town.
It was the highest populated town in Florida at the time.
That's insane, man. That is so insane. And then, of course, it snowballs, right? Like the first family member comes, they get a job, they start making money. You have
a no-interest loan on your house. You have a house now.
So talk to me about that. So Ybor set up a loan program for his cigar workers where they could actually get a no-interest loan.
Well, when you think about the housing developments that he was doing, he had never built houses before. But remember how I said he was in Key West? In Key West, 90 miles away from Cuba, he would have the worker staying in a little room, looking out the window going, I wonder what my wife's doing back in Cuba. I wonder what everybody's been up to. I wish I was here with them. You know what? I'm going to Cuba. Forget Key West. They'd go back and forth all the time. He wanted Tampa to be home. Ybor City was where you dropped your anchor. And if you had a house, that means that you would do grandma, grandpa, mommy, everybody. I've got a mansion in America. Come live with me here.
Right.
These little casitas that he built, which there's still 3 preserved involved with the Ybor State Museum. You can go tour them if you want to. These little casitas, they were, I want to say 700 square feet, maybe 8 at the most. They were shotgun homes, one hallway down the middle. And it was designed for like 4 people to live in it. But 15, 20, I don't know. If you were like, I come from your little town of Sicily. I know Antonio's cousin Giuseppe. Yeah, come live with us. It's fine.
Your last name's close enough.
Yes,
come on
exactly.
in.
That's why there's so many common last names around Ybor. Leto and Alvarez and Gomez. All these names are like, yeah, everybody's related. No, they're just kind of similar because they're from the same city or same town.
So how did Ybor get his money initially? You said he came here sort of already as a wealthy man.
Well, he was born into wealth. In Spain, his family was like, they even kind of rubbed elbows with the king of Spain.
Damn.
But he left at the age of 14 by himself to avoid conscription into the Spanish army, because back then you kind of had to. And not
Civil
only that,
War was kicking off,
yeah,
right?
Civil War was happening at the time, and it was like, you have to go to war, or you can go to Cuba and learn a trade, kind of thing, or any other Latin American country, because, all of them were colonized at the time. He was very into tobacco in general, and he started at the bottom of the ladder. He worked his way through the ladder for 20 years, opened his own factory with a little family money, and then blew up. El Príncipe de Gales was like the Pepsi of cigars.
Let's talk about the demand
for
cigars, too, because there's no Zen. There's no puff bars, right?
No
at
vapes.
The time, this was the way people got that nicotine fix, man. Yeah. I think people sort of underestimate, because you hear the numbers. 500 million cigars rolled a year in Ybor.
Right.
What was the number?
They were doing well over 1 million a day, sometimes 2 million. So yeah, we estimate about 500 million a year.
500 million cigars rolled a year.
365.
So you imagine the demand. Yeah. I mean, everyone was smoking cigars.
Right.
Everyone was smoking cigars.
Not only before Zin and all that, before cigarettes.
Cigarettes.
Back in the day, cigarettes were like, you were either a cowboy in the Old West or like somebody coming from France. That's what, if you smoked a cigarette. Think about what they used to call it in England. They were like, nobody smokes a cigarette kind of thing. But cigars were like where you could sit back, relax, and enjoy. And remember, like I said, they're watching the lamppost get lit. There was plenty of time to enjoy your cigar. They would smoke 5, 6, 7 cigars a day back then.
So Ybor comes here with money, with family money, and a vision for this city, and ends up, now the time you said, I think he came like 1885-ish.
Right.
From then until when Ybor was cranking out 500 million cigars a year, like what was the time scale there? Like how quick was this boom?
It was booming as soon as almost he started building the factories and everything. When Haya had his factory and Ybor built his factory, and then the people started rushing this way, it was already kind of starting to roll. It really started to peak in the 20s, the roaring 20s. Everybody had money. Even West Tampa was developing at the time. If you had a cigar in the 20s that said made in Ybor City or Tampa, Florida, you had a good cigar in your hands back then.
Damn.
Even still to this day, I travel around and I'll go to cigar places in different spots of the country, and I'll go, oh, I come from Tampa, Florida, Ybor. Like, Ybor, that's like the Mecca. I know Ybor City if you're in a cigar place, no matter where you are.
This episode is brought to you by the official remodeler of the TBD podcast, Kohler House Remodeling Company. Built on the belief that every homeowner deserves a premium experience, Kohler House is redefining high-end home remodeling with their commitment to integrity, craftsmanship, and quality communication. Their work speaks for itself, from condos in the towers of Channelside to 100-year-old homes in South Tampa, creating spaces that are both stunning and functional. What sets Kohler House Remodeling Company apart is their dedication to not only transforming homes into beautiful spaces, but to elevating the standard of residential general contracting. From concept to completion, every detail is handled with care, ensuring a process that's as smooth as the results are impressive. To learn more, check out our partner's website at kohlerhouse.net, KOHLERHAUS.net. This episode is sponsored by Chansey Architecture and Interior Design. Rooted in the heart of Ybor City for over 35 years, Walt Chansey and his team are trailblazers in their field. Beyond their work across the United States and the Bahamas, Chansey has shaped some of the most iconic residential and commercial spaces that serve as gateways to Cigar City, including Casa Martí and Casa Gomez. What sets Chansey Design apart is their ability to preserve the soul and character of historic buildings while seamlessly integrating modern design and functionality. They blend tradition with innovation, creating spaces that honor the past while meeting today's needs. Check out their work at www.chanseydesign.com. Before Ybor, was it sort of like these different factories around the world would produce these things?
Like Cleveland, Connecticut.
Because the Newmans
Key
came
West.
from Ohio, right?
They came from Cleveland, yeah. And they had success up there, and cigars were popular around the world, but Ybor perfected it. The same way, and you have the tools that you have right here. We had these guys that were doing a year's apprenticeship unpaid before you were able to roll a cigar. If you got an Ybor cigar compared to one from even Havana, you'd be like, yeah, this is a Havana cigar. Yeah, it's kind of unraveling here a little bit. Don't worry about it. It's fine. But these ones were like, no, we want to humidify it, dehumidify it, redo this. And they had a whole process to making sure it was the best quality.
Interesting. So it really wasn't it was not only about the number produced or the sort of city that was set up to support the manufacturing of cigars.
Mm-hmm.
The quality.
The quality was big. And the city itself being completely around the industry of cigars, that helped big time.
Like in the same way Henry Ford, right?
Right.
Like automated this process and
Yes.
the assembly line.
Bingo.
So it was the same thing, but for cigars.
Exactly. And all of them, think of it too, hand rolled.
What's up with Henry, by the way? Why like everyone named Henry back
I don't know.
then?
My grandpa's
Was it
name was Henry too.
Too bad he wasn't like a railroad magnet.
He was a shoemaker. Thanks. Didn't do much for me.
But yeah, so it really was about a process that increased the mass production quality, right? So people around the world would get a cigar from Tampa, and all of them were consistent.
Exactly.
And before then, it was almost like a hand rolled kind of a thing.
It'd be fine, but it wouldn't when you got it from Tampa, Florida, it was going to be the same as the one you got a year ago.
Were these things here was this what they used in the factories, or was this sort of more like a podunk type?
No, this is what they'd use in the
situation?
factories. By the way, the factory had different parts to it. There was a stemmery area where the tobacco would come from the port. There was, because it was all Cuban tobacco before the embargo. And then there was the sorter area. The sorters were like masters of their craft. They'd go through each tobacco leaf and smell it and feel it and taste it even. They'd put together a perfect blend.
Kind of reminds me of the craft beer craze 10 years ago.
Or if you go to a winery, same kind of thing. The grapes, they're smelling the grapes, they're feeling the grapes. And then when it got to the rollers, they would do their rolling. They would have them all set up like this. And even then it would go to the next level where it'd be people putting labels together or chopping off loose ends. It was, like you said, an assembly line of perfection. And all by hand.
All by hand. And you have to imagine too, right? There was a company that produced these boxes. What do you call this? The press?
Yeah, and I know there's a technical name for it, and it's in Spanish, but I don't know exactly off the top of my head. But I wonder who actually invented
it. Actually has the name.
Oh, does it?
DUBRUL, the DeBrule Manufacturing Company, USA. So you have to imagine, right? It's not only the people that rolled the cigars, right? People know the box factory lofts, right? In Ybor. That was a building where they actually constructed cigar boxes.
Exactly. It was the whole town around cigars.
It's just fascinating that it was like this automated, not even automated, but a city that was specifically for the purpose of supporting cigar manufacturing. And because of that, they probably all competed with each other, meaning oh, and that tobacco's inconsistent. This company's better. Like all the
Yeah,
companies got
there
together.
probably was some rivalry, but you got to remember at the same time, all these people were just happy as hell to be in America making money. They were like, well, if you were like one of the owners, maybe you'd be like, but
That's what I
like
mean. That's why
if you
I
say,
think
oh, I work at this factory, you work at that one, we don't really talk. No, it wasn't like that. We were just, we're all gonna go to the social club anyway. I'll see you there,
right.
kind of thing. Yeah, but the craziest thing about Ybor is not only did it produce these amazing products, it eventually produced, heroes, revolutions. It was a place where they drummed up the Cuban Revolution. It was a place where a lot of Italians found paradise in America to become, bigger names. A lot of these people that came this way came here illiterate, but then like the lectors educating them and entertaining them. And then they'd go home and go, hey, kids, who wants to hear the story of the Count de Monte Cristo or Romeo and Juliet or anything like that? And literature got to be so big that they were like, look, I don't want you to be a cigar roller like I was. I want you to go to become a doctor, become a lawyer. And that's why now you'll meet a lot of people like yourself. They're like, yeah, my great grandfather did this, my great grandmother did that, but then eventually, like, my grandfather became mayor, or my dad was a doctor, or my dad became, he did this and that. It just trickled into a bigger society out of just these little leaves of tobacco.
Yeah, I've been thinking about my great grandfather's hardware store recently, and about how connected was that community to one another, to where the little boy that grows up in the store becomes the mayor of the town.
Amazing.
Like, think about how connected those people were to one another. That community in Ybor City, it wasn't just about the cigar factory. Like, it's about the little family that owns the grocery, and then they are interacting with the bakers, and it's all these people from all these different nationalities getting together in one place. Ybor City, talking to one another, sharing stories, creating different foods. I mean, some of the foods that came out of Ybor
the food
are
in
so
Ybor
unique.
City is very unique. It's
very unique.
And we do a food tour now too. And we try to break everything down from like the German aspect, the Cuban sandwich, of course, but even like the deviled crab. And I've had somebody, you probably know Andrew Hughes. Do you know him?
I don't think so.
You should have him on your show. Andrew Hughes, he did a book with a couple other people, The History of the Cuban Sandwich. And he is, anytime I get a question about some sort of dish, I go to him about it, because that guy knows everything about every Tampa dish you could think of.
I was also thinking about like Tampa food specifically, how it's so unique. Wouldn't it be interesting to have food carts? Like in New York, you get the hot dog, you get a slice of pizza. What if
I always said if they had that on Ybor every night, you'd be rich.
Like a little deviled crab. You could get a deviled crab.
That used to be the way it worked. I think there's certain rules for brick and mortar and stuff now, but if I had the money, I'd open up a deviled crab cart right there in the middle of downtown Tampa.
Well, there's all those codes and stuff you have to work through, but that's what that food was. No, I mean, the reason why a deviled crab is constructed the way it is because it was street food, right?
Right. Well, you could hold it in one hand and eat it and have the cigar in the other.
Rolling cigars in one hand while you're having
a
little crab croquette. And the Cuban sandwich too, right? Like, that was another sort of on-the-go treat.
Right. Oh, because these guys, remember, they were getting paid by the piece rolled, not by the hour worked. Nobody took a lunch hour.
Oh.
What you did was take a quick lunch break and gobble up a Cuban.
So you got paid per cigar you rolled.
Some of them can make a fortune. They were making a lot of money rolling these cigars. That's why you see all the old pictures. They're all wearing suits and stuff, because they're like, I don't know what to do with all this money. I'm going to buy some clothes.
That's amazing too. Like, that probably is why you had a boom sort of when things got cranked up, and why you brought the wife and the kids, because like, holy shit, we're making some dough. What are we doing sitting in the middle of Sicily or whatever?
Exactly. Get your butt over here.
I went to Santa Stefano with my mom like 10 years ago, and we were there walking those streets, and it was really, really cool to be in the place where my family all congregated from, and so many other Ybor and Tampa families. And you walk around and you go, no wonder why they left. No wonder why they left. There's not a whole lot going on in Santa Stefano.
You got to think too, America at the time the American dream was like, nobody has freedom like this.
Right.
It was capitalistic too. Even the lector, like I mentioned, the guy that was reading to all the people rolling the cigars, even back then in Cuba, if you made $1, 80% of it went to the Spanish crown. This place in Ybor City, if you made $1, you made $1.
Well, this is pre-income tax.
Right.
I mean, what are you paying into back then?
And you had a no interest loan on your house. So it's like they were making their loan would be maybe, I don't know, $1.50 a week, and they were making like $1 a day.
I bet that's the reason why the architecture is so significant and the transportation system was incredible, is because all of the capacity to make your city beautiful and to be connected and to start businesses, there was no red tape.
No.
There was no licensing. There probably was.
There
but
was here.
barely.
Yeah, there was some. There was some.
Of course,
but
there
at
was
the same
some
time, they were like,
structure.
"What's your idea? Oh, you're going to connect this over to West Tampa? Let's do it."
Right.
You know.
Or I was reading. There's a little plaque in downtown Tampa about the first ferry in our area went across the river, and I'm thinking like, God, back then they figured out, all these little intricate, different types of things.
Well, before the boom of suburban life and highways, I mean, you think of the 1950s, once Eisenhower put together the highway system, it was like, well, now we can just drive everywhere. It's fine. We don't need a trolley anymore. We don't need a ferry anymore. We'll just drive there. Now, look at how long you stayed on 275. You're like, oh my God, I wish there was a freaking train that would take us around the town.
I saw Drew Newman was at the Economic Club, and I just saw, I didn't go, but I just saw a slideshow on Facebook. And one of the slides, he put how I-4 went straight through Ybor.
Yeah.
That highway going through, what did it destroy? Do we know? I mean, you got to imagine there's a lot of homes and businesses in that stretch.
Urban renewal in general during the time, and everybody knows the ups and downs of urban renewal. It had its good and its bad, and it did kind of connect, Orlando to Tampa to whatever. But
there's a lot of great things about an interstate.
But yeah, also, I mean, at least so back then they would just go, here, man, we're cutting you a small little check, go somewhere. Now today, as they try to do more projects, they've tried to right the wrongs that they did in the past. You see a lot of people like, of course, new projects like Gasworks and everything. They're moving people, but Daryl at least is giving them opportunity to like, hey, let's get you on a better situation.
I think the biggest issue we're talking specifically about that little I-4 corridor where Ybor is it's just disconnected. You don't feel, if you're on 7th Avenue, you don't feel like it's an easy way to get to north of I-4 where you can go visit the Newman's factory and some of the cool stuff happening. It'd be interesting if they could make more connections through or something like that.
Yeah, maybe somewhat, and things are developing. The Newmans are doing so much money over there, which I'm happy to see, of course. But I'll often, things have changed a little bit over the years, but at the beginning I'd be like, oh, where would you like to get some delicious Cuban bread? Las Segundas, right there. You can walk to it. And they go, nah, I think I'll drive, because it just seems a little weird going under the I-4 pass there. And
it's a mental block. It's a mental block.
It's almost like, it's like, so that's a whole nother town over there. It's not, though. It's less than a mile away,
And what was this area? So actually zoom out. This will be, I've thought about this over the last few months. We've talked about doing this show, but
see, there's the Museum State Park.
So where was everything? Zoom out a little bit, David. And what I mean by that is like, was there a district that was like, okay, that's where the cigar factories are. That's where people live.
Kind of, sort of, but even past all that, like you see Newman's factories just on the other side of I-4. They're a little north of it. And even if you went a little bit west, in West Tampa, there were hundreds of factories around there too. But it really kind of started right in the Ybor Channel right there. You see McKay Bay and all that. Where Tampa General Hospital is, that's where some of the shipping would come in, Channel Side area, of course.
So like the Channel Side, Ybor Harbor, that's where they would unload and offload.
Pretty much. And then the cigar factories themselves, if you look at any cigar factory, it'll have like a little lookout point called the cupola, where you can see directly to the port. Because back then, if you bought Cuban tobacco, you didn't pay for it in advance. Because if the ship sunk, all your money's at the bottom of the Gulf. Where's your money? But they would do like kind of a handshake deal, and they'd tell you, okay, I'm going to be arriving on this day in this boat. And a guy would sit there and look until he finally saw the boat coming in. He'd ring a bell, and then somebody with a horse and buggy would run from your factory as quick as he could to the port. They'd unload all the tobacco because, well, first of all, you want to get there quick, because if somebody else comes with the same amount of money that they promised the captain doesn't care who buys it. As long as he gets paid so we can leave.
Well, that's probably why there were so many tunnels in the area, was to offload product, whatever that product may be.
Maybe tunnels are a little different than the ones on top.
Maybe some illegal product, but moving it from the waterway up north through Ybor City.
Exactly.
So the Newmans had a factory. You can see it above I-4.
Yep.
I also know that there's some factories like near the skate park at Tampa on that east side. So really it was everywhere.
It just like kept expanding
if you came to Tampa in 1915, 1925, whatever, like around that area, it was just everywhere.
And downtown was kind of developing then, but most everything was going on right there in Ybor City.
It's amazing to imagine what it must have been like back then. And West Tampa was its own boomtown as well.
It was its own town till 25, I want to say. There's a famous quote by I don't know the mayor's name, but the mayor of West Tampa, when they were incorporating in Tampa, Florida, he said, Tampa is absorbing one of the fastest growing economic booming cities in America. And then the Great Depression happened 4 years later. So it was like, oh crap, nobody wants a cigar anymore. We have to buy soup and bread, you know?
Is that true? Was it really one of the fastest growing in America?
It was growing.
West Tampa.
West Tampa was a huge hit. Maybe as good as Ybor City was.
Wow. So it was almost like a suburb or
Kinda,
like a
yeah.
secondary market.
It was like a sister city to Ybor, yeah. But once it all became Tampa, Florida, like Tampa in the 20s was like the Manhattan of the South, man. Think of everything that was being built in the 20s. Tampa Theater, Hotel Floridan, some of the biggest names you could think of were coming to Tampa, Florida. This was like the place to be.
And Hotel Floridan was the tallest building in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So really back then, you know, when people in New York or whatever would talk about, oh, we're going down there for the winter.
Right.
That was it.
Oh, it was like, oh, you're going to Tampa.
It was like a
make sure you see
deal.
this. Make sure you see that. It was a huge deal. But then when the cigar industry crashed, Tampa kind of began to crash along with it.
Yeah, when your whole city's like only has one industry that it kind of relies on, that's a little tough.
One basket for the eggs.
One and done, and then from there, right, the rest is history. We sort of know the rest of that story. And it never really kicked back up because by then you've got the Marlboro Man, right? People are smoking cigarettes.
World War II happened. Everybody came back addicted to cigarettes.
Right. And then that was kind of all she wrote. And now cigars, I feel like, have made sort of an upswing, it feels like, in the last decade. Like a pretty big one.
Especially as now we've learned all about cigarettes. We know how bad cigarettes are. And it's different when you smoke a cigar. You're not inhaling it.
Right.
You're just relaxing with it. So it's become like not only, I wouldn't call it better for you, but I talk to a lot of people that smoke cigars. They'll say, "Hey, it helped my blood pressure because I sit back,
one
relax,
ingredient."
And chill.
I think this whole country is sort of like taking a step back and looking at what it's consuming.
Right. Everybody's like,
even
"What's in
what
my
it's
milk?"
smoking.
You know, like you know.
Well, what's in the vape pen?
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
What's in the nicotine pouches?
Right.
I think that's why Zen is so popular because it's just like pure. You know, I mean, nicotine pouches before Zen was like fruit flavor. Who the hell knows what's in?
And it was everybody had 3 teeth.
But cigars, I mean, man, that's one ingredient, right? And I think a lot of people are looking at that as like a viable little maybe vice they could have that's not too terribly harmful.
It also keeps away, like if you're like, me and my friend are going to talk for a bit, we're going to have a cigar. No, I know you don't like the smell of it. We'll be over here. Don't worry. It's almost like an exclusive club.
I know my wife hates when I come home from like Sterling or like Grand Cathedral or somewhere. I come back and it's like I smell terrible. I love the scent though. I think it's fantastic.
No, I make a joke on my tour. I'm like, they used to smoke 5 to 10 cigars a day and still find somebody to kiss them goodnight.
5 to 10 a day is insane.
Man.
My dad used to do yard work and chief them back to back to back. He would smoke like 7 or 8 of them.
Damn.
In a
That's
day.
the way it was.
He's paying for it though. He's got like some breathing issues
Nothing's
and stuff like that.
Listen, you drink too much milk, it's bad for you. You know what I mean? Like nothing's good for you, you know.
Well, he drank too much milk too. He had some you know, all those other issues that come with drinking too much calcium. But yeah, man, no, it's fascinating to think about, you know, the way things used to be here with Cigar City. And so all these names, we were talking about the names before we went live, right? There's like these new buildings that nod to that past and talk about those names.
I love that.
Notably, especially in Ybor proper, right? There's like Casa Pedroso, Casa Martí, Maceo, all these names. I wanted to ask you kind of who these people were, right? We talked about Ybor. I think everyone's sort of familiar with who that guy was.
We know Mr. Ybor. And if you don't know Jose Martí, I mean, you can go anywhere in Latin America to learn about him. He's a hero in all of Latin America. Jose Martí is known as the liberator of Cuba. Some people call him like the George Washington of Cuba, but he was not much of a, I would call him more like a Martin Luther King Jr. because he wasn't like a soldier. He was a brilliant speaker and an even better writer. He wrote a lot of very famous poems, including one that was converted into a very famous song known as Guantanamera, if you've ever heard before. But Jose Martí on the island of Cuba.
Guantanamera.
Guantanamera. Come on, you know the words too, man. No, maybe not from Ukraine. I don't know if it's that far.
Ukraine.
But anyway, Jose drummed up the whole revolution here in Ybor City. He is, if you go to Miami, Key West, Puerto Rico, Cuba especially, but even like Argentina, you see statues, paintings, dedications to him. So naming a building after him, pretty big deal.
And what were his ties to Tampa?
Well, he came to Tampa, Florida after being kicked out of Cuba for being too rebellious. He was, like I said, drumming up a revolution against Spain. Actually, the Spanish government told him, you have 24 hours to leave or you'll be shot tomorrow.
Oh.
He left. He went to New York City. He went around. But before Miami was even on the map, when it was Everglades and alligators down there, this was the cradle of Cuban independence. So he would give speeches to recruit soldiers for the war. He would get donations to send back to Cuba. Pretty much he started the whole revolution in Ybor City and The message of war was sent from Ybor City to Cuba to begin the proceedings of the revolution.
Wow.
Do you know the story of that?
No, I don't.
The cigar? Oh my God, it's a brilliant story. So Jose Martí, like I said, if he's seen in Cuba, he's shot on sight, and he has to get this war started. Gives a big speech in front of Mr. Ybor's factory. 3,000 Cubans sit there, and they lift him off the stairs and carry him around the town chanting Cuba Libre. He's like, we have to do the revolution tonight. So he's like, how am I going to get this message back to Antonio Maceo, which is another figure that we talk about. He's the general of the Cuban Revolution. So he's thinking about it. If I put it in someone's shoe, they're going to search their shoes when they're coming off the harbor. I mean, how am I going to get this message across? He has a brilliant idea. He has 5 cigars rolled here in Ybor City. One of them, he puts 2 little yellow dots on and hides the message in the rolling of the cigar. He puts the message literally in the cigar leaf. So then when this guy, his name's escaping me, but a lieutenant, goes to Cuba, gets off the boat at the Havana harbor, Spanish guards all surrounding him. They're asking him questions. He's like, gentlemen, just relax. Here, have a cigar. Everybody just have a cigar. Let's talk a little bit. I'm going to open up a nice hotel here in Cuba. That's what I'm doing here. Hey, what's your favorite beach? Hey, where's all the good food? Where's the sights? Where's the women? What should I do? These guards are sitting there with their cigars. He's lighting them up. He's got the message of war right in his hand in front of them. And they go, hey, you're good, man. Come on, move it along. Hey, have a good night, gentlemen. He has the freaking cigar right there in their faces. And that's how they began the Cuban Revolution.
Wow.
So his ties to Tampa, I mean, literally, La Casa de Pedroso, the little park, or the Jose Martí Park, people call that the House of the Revolution because that's where Jose stayed while he did this whole planning of the revolution. Cubans from around the world, I've seen people go there with tears. I've seen people, bring the ashes of their relatives to sprinkle in the park because, it's Cuban owned as well.
Now, what's the story there? Why is it Cuban owned? How did that come into the picture?
From what I understand, Batista, former dictator of Cuba, wanted to dedicate thousands to turn La Casa de Pedroso, the boarding home Jose stayed in, and that you can look up Jose Martí Park if you're looking for it. There it is. Yeah. So he wanted to turn that into a museum. But when they went through it, it was covered in termites, and then a small fire happened, and they were like, this is not safe. So they knocked it down and built the park instead. And while they were building the park, the Pedroso family themselves signed the deed of the land over to the nation of Cuba, and that's the way it stands today. That's Cuban-owned land right there.
Cuban-owned land.
And you see the plants with the little placards in front of them?
Yeah.
Each one of those placards represent the main provinces of Cuba. Each one of those plants is planted with soil from the province that they're representing. So it's Cuban soil in there too. And there's Jose.
Go back to those plants. What's there's no significance with the plant. It's the soil.
It's the soil that it's planted in. Exactly.
I think we need some new plants in there though.
That's actually kind of an old photo. Daryl has put some money into that place. It
really? We got to go check that out. David, you probably walk by there all the time.
Take my friends there and I always tell them this is cute.
Nice. Yeah, there it is. Jose Martí Park. Yeah.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. It's so
Who's that guy?
Interesting, man. Yeah, that he's like, what's up, street?
He's got half his foot in Cuba, the other half in America. Look at that.
People take pictures like that too.
Yeah. Oh,
there's a tour.
Yeah. I know the segues. That's old.
Probably a really common stop, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, every tour you can think of goes to Jose Martí Park. It's the marquee spot. Look at everything being developed around it. So that's now that's Casa Pedroso, the condos, which Casa Pedroso is named after Paulina Pedroso, who is the mother of Cuba. In fact, in that park in the back, there's a speech from Jose Martí about dignity and poise and the world rewarding good people. But the best part of the speech, there's a line that says, anything's possible in this world if you have a good book and a good woman.
Oh, wow.
Ain't that the truth, boys?
That's the damn
Anyway,
truth.
he's talking about, and that's where Casa Martí. Yeah. Anyway, he's talking about Paulina Pedroso, who she is what's Pedroso's named after, Casa Pedroso. She literally took Jose Martí off the streets when he came to Tampa. She is like the mother of Cuba. She would iron his clothes for him, cook his favorite meals for him. They would walk arm in arm around Ybor City because he's Anglo-Cuban and she's Afro-Cuban. And he would tell everybody, look, doesn't matter what we look like, we're all Cuban kind of thing.
And that was the message here in Ybor and here in America.
Right.
Whereas in Cuba, it was more segregated.
Exactly. I mean, in Cuba, it was kind of like, sure, you're Cuban, but you're Afro-Cuban. You're here while I'm here.
But when they all came here, they were all sort of on the same teams.
Black, white, man, woman. As long as your elbow didn't hit mine while we rolled cigars, you could work right next to me.
So Pedroso was in Ybor before Martí.
Right.
Martí comes in as like a political refugee.
Exactly.
Like will literally be killed on sight. If he's in Cuba.
He literally was escaping pretty much.
So he escapes, bails out,
right.
And Pedroso takes him in.
Exactly.
Gives him a place to stay.
You think about it, too. He stayed there from 1891 till 1893, I want to say exactly. he stayed there for 2 years drumming up a revolution. If you go to Vermont and there's a bed and breakfast that's like, hey, George Washington had coffee at this table, people are going to come take pictures of it.
Sure.
He stayed there for 2 years and drummed up the revolution there.
Wow.
You know?
So can you say the Cuban Revolution started here in Ybor City?
Started's a bit of a stretch, but I would say it was it ended almost here. Like it was like the beginning of the end, as Winston Churchill says.
Instrumental to ending it and seeing it through, because this is where they could organize outside of Cuba.
Exactly. In Cuba, if you were a Cuban and you looked at a Spaniard a little bit sideways, you could be thrown in jail.
Right.
Here, the Spaniards and the Cubans were all rolling the cigars together. They had also their social clubs where they could sit down and discuss, we're all Cubans in this room.
Yeah.
We can talk a little bit here, you know,
and
kind of
have the room to talk about that stuff, you know, without anyone looking over their shoulder.
Right. And, you know, everybody's the same citizen.
And then so Martí, Pedroso, and then to the right, David, behind Casa Martí is Casa Gomez. Who was Gomez?
Gomez, you know, that's a good one. There's some names in history, and I will, next time I see Daryl Shaw, I'll ask him about that, because there's lots of, Gomez is like Smith in the Spanish language, you know, so I'd have to figure out exactly who Casa Gomez is. Now I know
which Casa Gomez.
Yes, exactly. Like we have to probably figure out exactly which character they're talking about. I know there was a guy in Cuba who was behind Maceo, and he helped deliver the message, but I'm doubting that's the guy that they're naming after.
So Maceo.
Yeah.
Who was Maceo?
That's, of course, a name. He's huge in the. I would call him more the George Washington of Cuba, because he was the general of the revolution. They call him the Bronze Titan.
He was like, the guy that Martí had to get the message to with the cigar.
He was the general of the Cuban Revolution. He was also exiled, but he didn't leave. He hid in the hills of Oriente and built a small army, and that led to the revolution. Now Maceo, though, he is first of all, he was an Afro-Cuban. He actually wasn't allowed to march with the Americans after the celebration of the Spanish-American War. But not only that, his mom helped design the flag of Cuba.
Oh, wow.
He's huge in Cuban history. He was a great man, honestly, and really a strong person. He was kind of the muscle while Jose was the brains. You know,
wow. Afro-Cuban, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the Africans that came here to this country, we know their history, right? Did they come to the same reason to Cuba? Were they enslaved people?
Yeah, in slavery.
And were they free in Cuba?
You know. No, not exactly. I mean, you'd have to look more into the segregation. Nobody was really free.
Well, I was going to say, apparently they weren't very happy if he's the general of the revolution, right?
No, yeah, nobody was really free from Spanish rule. They had literal concentration camps in Cuba at the time. And it would, I mean, that's what happens when you treat one part of the society badly, they're going to eventually rise up.
Sure.
Think of like the French Revolution or
all the above, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the Afro-Cubans, the thing that was cool about Ybor City is, like I said, everybody was on the solid line. Everybody was all stable here. Paulina Pedroso was Afro-Cuban. Think about that. An Afro-Cuban woman owning land in the South.
Right.
That's pretty wild. That's way ahead of its time.
I've talked about that on the show before, like how Tampa and Ybor specifically, the people that were here in so many places around the country, they had everything against them. Like you weren't allowed to open businesses, and you weren't allowed to go in the pool and share the water fountain as a Latin, especially as a Afro, really anything.
Yeah.
But here they all seem to get along.
Yeah, for the most part.
For the most part.
You got to remember, by the time Ybor was starting to hit its peak, immigrants way outnumbered Anglos around here. You know, and
maybe that's the reason, because it was such an immigrant boomtown. They felt like they had some juice. You know, they had some probably political power too.
Eventually, yeah. I mean, think of all the big names in politics and history. Yes, if you go farther back, it's mostly like McKay, Wall. These are Anglos, but then you start getting into the Grecos, the Gomezes, the Mantegas. These are not Anglo names.
Well, I mean, and think about how late that is, right? Like I think that Bob Martinez was the mayor of Tampa here and then governor of Florida, but back then, and that was maybe the 60s, David, you could look that up when Martinez was the governor. But I remember my dad telling me like, no, like that was a big deal, like to have a Hispanic last name,
and be that,
be the governor.
Think how big it was when Kennedy became president. Oh, an Irish president, like that's insane. That was the 60s.
Yeah, and then we're still having an immigration conversation today. It's kind of crazy how that's always been in conversation. It's the story of our country, though, right? We're a nation of immigrants.
And if I could tell you more about the progressiveness, real quick, there's the old Woolsworth downtown. Was where one of the first sit-ins happened in the American South. You know, the kids from I want to say it was Blake and maybe Hillsborough High School. They said, yeah, there's Bob Martinez.
So Bob Martinez, governor, 87 to 91.
Pretty good.
First Hispanic American governor since colonial Florida.
That's bananas.
87. That's pretty late.
That's really late.
That's crazy.
I was born in 88. That's
crazy.
That's really crazy.
But there you go, right? That shows you how sort of protective the Anglos were towards political power.
And
organization in general, really.
Right. That's why people get so shocked today where they're like, man, they're like really shoving this stuff down our throats. Like, nah, it's like, this is kind of their moment. You know, like let them have their moment.
Well,
you know?
I mean, look at that date, 87, right?
87, like I said, born in 88.
And that's
like,
a 19 in front of it.
Right,
you know?
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. That's only, what, 50 years ago? It's nuts. Yeah.
It's crazy. So the progressive nature of the organization.
I mean, and you can look this up too. There was a sit-in 1960. And then by the end of the year 1960, I want to say it was September, they desegregated Franklin Street in downtown Tampa. You could have black people and white people shopping at the same place in 1960,
which was a
I mean, when was the bus boycott? 60 something. I mean, it's wild. It was way ahead of its time here in Tampa, Florida. And
again, it's because these people were here with a common vision and a community, and they had space, man. I think at the end of the day, they had their own little space.
Exactly.
You know, I can't imagine. You know, call it 1910, right? I bet the Anglos didn't really go to Ybor. I bet they kind of stayed away.
Well, even downtown wasn't much to see there either. But yeah, I mean, Ybor was it had its own little town, had its own little mayor, had its own little thing going on for a while there. And it didn't want to be part of Tampa, Florida. The port is the reason why Mr. Ybor had to annex himself into Tampa.
You know what I just thought of? Like, there's no, and maybe there was, right? That's why you're on the show, to tell us all these interesting things. But like a hotel. In Ybor, I'm sure there were little boarding houses, but like a big resort. Maybe the reason is because people didn't visit here; they came here to live and stay and work.
It's probably that. They dropped an anchor here, and there was boarding homes around here and there, but really they were dropping an anchor and they were staying. If you got a job, you had a place to sleep, you were like, that's all I really need.
You know, back then.
Yeah, back then
you didn't need a whole lot of amenities back then.
Nobody had Netflix.
The building that the Newmans are restoring.
Yes.
On Columbus. That was an old cigar factory. Do you know the history behind
it? It was both. It was a factory and a boarding home. Sanchez Ejaya.
Yeah,
there was a woman that I met not long ago. She's actually a descendant of the Sanchez family, and she's really excited about it. Yeah, this is it right here.
Look at the condition of it. You know, what an ambitious project for them to.
Man, oh man, the Newmans are like saving that side of Ybor City. They really are.
Huge commitment from that family to do some really special things over there, which is totally needed. You know, you need some life into that northern section of Ybor City.
I mean, it's just across the bridge there, but a lot of people, I mean, they'll drive past 7th Avenue. They go, okay, what else is there? Oh, I'm turning around.
You got the air quote railroad track. You know what I mean? You have that mental, like, don't go that way type thing, which is complete BS.
Yeah.
But still, that's in people's minds. And I think that a project like this and their dedication to this area will change that, man.
Think of everything surrounding. You got Daryl is doing the whole gasworks scene to connect Channel Side to Ybor on the south side, right? Ybor City, the historic district, the 7th Avenue. It's got a French restaurant coming in. There's chop houses coming in. It's still gonna have the party atmosphere, which is great, but it's like that's getting cleaned up too.
Ray's Ballpark.
Yeah, hey,
maybe.
I mean, yeah,
we'll see.
I'm all for it, dude.
I know, me too. It'd be interesting. Again, I think it would draw people in. Right.
By the time this airs, who knows what's gonna happen? But like yesterday, they just sold the team. So it's like,
well, I think what was the news, David? Like they announced that they're in advanced negotiations.
I heard it's going through, but.
Apparently it's going through. All the media says it is. We talked about it months ago with JP Peterson. He really was the first one to publicly come out, to many people and kind of call this, right? And he said that they were in talks. It's like some big money from Jacksonville mixed with some Tampa money, and their dedication is to bring the team to Tampa. That's all we really know.
Tampa, Florida is the place. Tampa, Florida. They're nothing against St. Pete. I mean, they've had their run there. It's just not gonna happen over there. We all know that.
Try to back up, David. I want to see if, like, I guess that's a good view.
Where are we gonna put this stadium?
Well, yeah, we got to figure that out too, right? Me and you right here today.
Yeah, let's do it right here.
but this building is in such terrible condition in this picture. Now, they're obviously, this is from 2019. This is a while ago.
It's definitely way better now.
It makes you think how many of those buildings were lost or abandoned. The history we don't know,
right,
is what's interesting to me.
Luckily, a lot of people who put a lot of efforts together got a lot of buildings historically preserved. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because a lot of them, especially like the 60s and 70s, they were like, knock it all down. Let's go
Yeah,
build something.
what an interesting sort
Yeah.
of mindset that was
Right.
back then, like urban renewal, where you
Right.
would just be like, tear it down,
Yeah.
like this crappy old
Yeah,
building.
knock it down. Who cares about the bricks anymore? It's pretty shocking, really. But thank God there were people with the foresight to be like, no, we need to preserve this. Here's why. And then they got the designation. They're like, now we can't knock it down.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and now it's a pain in the ass for all the developers who complain about it. You know, it's
Yeah,
like,
I know there's a lot of red tape out there, but
there is, but it's for a good reason, right?
Right.
To preserve this history.
Mhm.
Some of these social clubs are the most beautiful
Oh
buildings
my
in the
God,
city.
yeah. Centro Studiano, the Cuban club. I mean, that's like my baby. I love the Cuban
Let
club.
me ask you about the Germans, though.
Yeah.
Like, where do the Germans fit into the mix? Isn't that, I mean, you've talked about the Cubans and the Spanish and the Sicilians and the
Yeah.
Italians, but like the Germans seem so far away from those cultures,
Right.
right? From that Hispanic kind of culture.
Yeah, and no tobacco culture. What they did when they came here, they were like, well, we don't know much about rolling. We don't know much about this or that, but we know really a lot about art. So think about it. Like you look over your shoulder, it says Tampa Prince, that's a nice label. Looks fine. And they thought, well, what if that label had like a beautiful woman in it, or like a prince standing tall and holding his crown or something? You know, they decided to start making the cigar boxes and the labels to be gorgeous stuff. It used to just say like made in Tampa. Now it would say, you know, Tampa Prince with something gorgeous behind it that you're like, wow, look at that label. Now, even today, I know people that collect cigar boxes just because they thought it was pretty. You know?
Oh my God, some of those lithographs and
Right.
the gold, literally real gold inlaid in the art. I have a few over there.
The
I
visitor
love
center in
'em.
Ybor, they have a whole display on how they did it. It's amazing.
Yeah, because that was a big deal back then, right? These different inks and the
Right.
metallic paints
Yeah,
they would use
press
to make them
onto
shine.
each other, kind of thing.
You know,
incredible.
before a digital phone for an
Yeah.
advertisement, this was your chance to catch the eye of a customer.
Exactly.
This label, though, in particular, why I love this one so much is this word invincible. I
Yeah.
just think that's such a bold,
That's a great label.
like, what a word to use to describe your product.
Mhm.
Invincible.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, man. I don't know.
Incredible.
I think that's amazing. Plus, I love the red. I'm a fan of red.
Me too, man. Must be the Buccaneers in me.
That deep red color.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's like, you know, all of these different pieces of the economy that stemmed from one product, right? The cigar. You know, the Germans came and saw an opportunity because of the cigar, but it really was not tobacco, and it was not really anything but their artistic ability.
Right.
You're
Well,
saying.
remember I told you, no matter your language, you had a job here. And when they came here, they're like, so what do we do? We'll figure it out. We'll get you something.
So how did they get the Germans? I mean, was this an effort by Ybor to bring in this, or maybe
A lot of
this was-
Germans were coming to America then. I mean, there was a lot of economic issues, some anti-Semitism over there, and people were just like, I need to get the hell out of this place. So they started heading to like New York City, and New York has a huge German influence and places like that. But like I said, if you came to New York and they're like, I guess I'll work at this German bakery. I don't know much about baking.
Right.
Maybe I'll stay in my cousin's one-bedroom apartment that he has in the middle of the city that smells. It's covered in rats. And then someone goes, you know, you go to Ybor, you get a guaranteed job over there. They got houses available. They're like, I'm going to try that. You know?
And there was a market for it too, right? All these 500 million cigars a year, they
Right.
need labels.
Right. Oh, tell
Every
me
single
about
one
it.
has a label.
Everybody had, like I said, everybody found their job. And then, of course, the Germans also opened up, retail, things like that. You know, if you go down 7th Avenue, you'll see names like Steinberg, Adolf Katz.
Yeah.
These are not Latin names in the Latin
No.
Quarter, but these are the people that decided to put together a business there and make it work.
Interesting.
Mhm.
What other smaller cultures existed in Ybor? I mean, everyone knows about, I think, the German.
Right.
What are the big ones? The big ones are the Spaniards,
The
Sicilians,
Italians, yeah, the Sicilians, the Cubans,
and
of course,
the Germans.
but the Romanian Jews, huge.
Romanian
huge.
Jews, really?
That's why it looks so much like New Orleans. Most of the Romanian Jews that left Romania and went to New Orleans, they became shoemakers, tailors, bakers, right? And then that's in the mid 1800s when New Orleans was really booming. Then the next generation's born. They take over the family business and they're like, there's a brand new town across the Gulf of Mexico. If we go there now, we'd be the only shoemaker in that town. And they came over there and built it like New Orleans, where they'd work below it and live right above it. Similar to this. I mean, if you go on a 7th Avenue and you see all the wrought iron and everything, it looks a lot more like, it looks a lot more. That's why they even call it the Latin Quarter compared to the French Quarter, because the New Orleans aspect of it, it's got it's so close to New Orleans style buildings. Now, New Orleans, of course, way different. It was developed almost 100 years before Ybor City did. But we have so much of an influence of it. And anybody that, you go down 7th Avenue that way, go, all the way down. People come on my tours and go, why is it like a mini New Orleans? I'm like, well, because the last group of immigrants that came this way in the 1900s, Romanian Jewish immigrants.
So the first were the Cubans.
Yeah, and the some of the Spaniards too that went to Cuba.
Like if you're going to lay down that timeline with these groups of immigrants, let's talk about that. So
Sure.
who came first, and then how did
Cubans coming from Key West in Cuba. That was a big one. The Spaniards were also already kind of in Key West in Cuba. They were like, the lower class Spaniards, where they were like, we're never going to be royals, man. Let's just figure out how we can make this work. So they went along with them too. The Italians came a lot later, and in fact, there's the Italian club right there on the right. The Italians, when they came here, it was because it was good timing. You think about when Ybor was developed in 1885, right? The Statue of Liberty was dedicated in 1886. So all these people were coming here like, I want this American dream. And someone tells you, you can find the American dream. In fact, you get a guaranteed job when you arrive there.
Yeah.
That's going to make you want to come this way.
Yeah, they were super excited, right? There was massive opportunity.
Absolutely.
So then after the Cubans and the Italians and the Spaniards came the Germans.
The Germans and the Romanian Jews. And then we also had Irish here, Chinese. We had a lot of people that came.
The Chinese thing is fascinating.
Yeah, I know,
like
well,
I've talked about it
Chinese,
before, but
yeah.
that
They were almost
Colombia,
like
they have that
indentured
dish.
servitude, yeah.
They have like a stir fry, right? But it's flavored almost like a Hispanic,
Yes.
Dish.
Colombia does such a good job
And
with that.
you read it, and it's like, yeah, there was these Chinese population here.
Right.
They ate the same food. I traded with your family for this, and I did my Chinese thing with my walk, and
The
that's
Asian culture that came this way, I mean, the Asians have such a rich history in America. They had the bad end of the stick for a long, long time, but they helped build America. Almost not as much as like the Afro-Americans, but like almost as much as the Irish and anybody else that you can think of.
That's amazing. Yeah, you don't really see it expressed as much as the other cultures. I mean,
Right.
you do have that one dish at the Columbia, but other than that, is there a building? Is there a landmark that people could go to?
That's a good question. I do know that where the 7-Eleven is in 7th Avenue. When I saw old pictures, like that used to be a Chinese restaurant back in the day.
Oh, like in the 90s
like,
or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's just crazy to me to think of like, no, even before the 90s, like there was a big Chinese influence around.
It would be interesting if a restaurateur, like I think Eulali's done a good job at
Yeah.
like, I would describe it as
Well, the
old,
Gonsmarts,
old
man.
Florida food,
Yeah.
right? Eulalie is, and of course the Columbia, but
Mhm.
it would be interesting. And Carmine's, I think, does
Yeah.
this as well, but a restaurant dedicated to Tampa food,
That would be kind of cool.
that-
Only Tampa food.
that really dug into some of the old recipes, like that Chinese stir fry.
Right. If they could do like maybe a 2-page menu.
Yeah.
And each dish has the story behind
Yes.
it. And that's all they serve.
It's interesting. Like you go to New Orleans and there's the beignets,
Right.
right? And there's these iconic things, or New York has its food, and
Mhm.
and all these places around the world have a food culture. Well, we do too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Heavily, like very, very unique.
We talked about the devil crab, the Cuban sandwich, crab enchilada. I mean, all these things.
What's the crab enchilada?
It's like
The
a
spaghetti
spicy,
thing?
yeah, the spaghetti with the
Yeah.
crab meat in it.
I love that.
These things are all put together for a reason. The devil crab was invented during the strikes of the cigar industry because they take the leftover crab and just throw breadcrumbs on it. Like, at least we got a little something.
And then
there.
deep fry it.
Deep fry it, and it was good. A little hot sauce on it.
And then the mixto, right? The,
mixto,
Cuban
the
sandwich,
the mix of all the cultures.
with the German mustard, and
Right, pickles and Swiss cheese. I always there's a comedian out there. I don't remember who he was, but he has a joke where he's like, the Cubans take the credit for the sandwich. Like, yeah, what's in it? Well, first you start with mustard, and then you start with Swiss cheese, and then it's like none of that's Cuban. It's like all you really had was the Cuban bread. That was the influence of the Cuban sandwich. And then you had, of course, the pork of the Spaniards, the salami of the Italians. That's the difference between us and Miami. They have no salami down there. We like the salami in ours.
Is that the only difference in the Miami Cuban versus the Tampa one?
No, it's not. But I could do a whole 45 minutes on that.
Why is there such a fight between who started the Cuban sandwich first?
Well, let's talk a little bit about Miami's history, first of all. After the cigar industry crashed, as we talked about, these people that made a lot of money rolling cigars said, I'm going back to Cuba to live like a king. And then there was the Fidel Castro revolution, where if you had money, you didn't want to be there no more. And if you were not agreeing with the government, you were kicked out. At the time, Miami was developing. It was like a new town. So they went there and they brought all their influence to Miami. Now, the ones in Miami were like, What's wrong with having a little tomato on there? What's wrong with having some mayonnaise on there? If you had that in the old cigar factories, it would melt in your pocket. The tomatoes would be disgusting. The mayonnaise would go bad.
Oh, right.
So there was no reason to have mayonnaise and tomato and all that stuff on it. So that's why ours is so much different than what they have down there.
I love mayonnaise on it, though.
I'm going to tell you, I'm not opposed to having tomato and lettuce and stuff on mine, but if I want a traditional Cuban, I do not put that on there.
Now, the press. Did they press it all like the OG mixed dough? Was that a press
question.
sandwich?
I don't think they did press it. The OG one.
It's so
Maybe.
good. You
I
slather
do. That might have
thing
been
up
where they leveled it up, right?
Bro,
there.
you slather it with butter and press it. Oh, it changes it completely.
amazing.
And you got to cut it diagonal.
Oh yeah, every time.
Every time. That's another thing. I feel like Miami doesn't cut it diagonally.
No, I mean, like I said, Miami has amazing food, but they can't take clean. And I've had an argument with a guy from Miami.
I was
going
to ask you, anyone on the tour?
Absolutely.
Really?
And I tell them, go tell your friends to come visit me so we could talk about it. But here's I gave him the reasoning I just gave you for Tampa. I go, now what's your reason for Miami? He goes, it's Miami, bro.
It's Miami, bro.
That's the end of our discussion. Yeah.
Our that demographic though, I don't think we dug deep into that. I think I asked you in the beginning, maybe it was before we went live, but the people coming here, I think you mentioned there are people from like cruise ships and there's people visiting here and stuff like that. I would be curious to know if you've seen new people, meaning like, every group has people from California and I didn't have that 5 years ago. Like, is there any changing sort of demographic you're seeing in your tours?
In the past 5 years, especially after the pandemic, amazing how many people are like, I moved here 2 years ago and I never even, like, I heard of Ybor because that's where I got a tattoo. I'm like, man,
wow,
come with me on a tour and I'll show you a little bit. And same with downtown. People are like, yeah, I went downtown to the Strat Center, but I don't really hang out downtown. I'm like, there's a lot to do downtown.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, you didn't go downtown. Now you can hang out downtown for the whole day and night. And it's fun to have people that are like, listen, I come from New York City. I know what nightlife is like. I'm like, come with me to Ybor. Let's go on a ghost tour and then I'll show you where to go afterwards. And they're like, man, Ybor is my new favorite place.
Yeah.
Because this is a place where they had opportunity during, just like in the turn of the century when we had people coming this way for cigars. When the pandemic hit, it was like, well, we are open and you can do remote Manhattan work and get an Ybor rent. You know what I mean? When back then, Ybor rent was nothing. Now it's changed quite a bit. But
now it's changed quite a bit.
Yeah, but at the same time, people came this way going like, okay, I'll go to the beach. Sounds good.
There's just so much excitement about that neighborhood. So all the sellers of real estate, you know, they think they have this gold treasure chest, which they kind of do. Yeah. You know, I love the neighborhood, obviously, but I think it'll cool off. It needs to cool off a little
already.
Bit. Yeah.
In fact, I was talking to some people because, you know, I keep my ear to the streets of Ybor. Even when I'm not touring, I like to hang out there. So like I'm talking to business owners about, you know, hey, I'm going on Garrett's podcast. What should I ask him? And all of them said the same thing. Ask him what our identity is going to be. Yeah. Like ask him because we're seeing, like I said, a French restaurant come in, but also a new club's opening up. And we're seeing, you know, strollers being pushed around, but then at nighttime, the bar's open till 4.
Well, I think people are trying to attach, or they're trying to get Ybor attached to like a thing, right? But remember what we've talked about today. Ybor was always an incredibly diverse mix of things. And so in the future, what I would want to see personally is that, right? Yeah. Like I want the nightlife. I would love a few tattoo shops, but I also want like some nice restaurants and interesting places where friends from out of town could come and stay and be a part of something cool.
Exactly.
One thing that you said that I love to see, which I think is an extremely positive change is, oh yeah, I went there and got a tattoo when I was 18 and haven't been back. Well, it's like, hold on, you're missing everything. Exactly. Like you've missed the whole point of this neighborhood. The fact that has shifted, you know, I would imagine like, you know, the family from Ohio comes down for a cruise. Yeah. You know, they think of the Florida beaches and the palm trees. They hop on a cruise. They go to International Mall and fly home. I would love for that couple to be like, oh my God, we got to go to Ybor. Like we got to check out Cigar City. We have to hear these stories. I think that now that is changing and people are coming here for that history, the identity will sort of express itself and play itself out. We have to remember that all that we've talked about today, this entire package of history, and then right now, currently, how many decades are in between of just sort of decay and despair and you know, very heavy entertainment and tattoo vibe, again, has its role in the future. Yeah. But unfortunately, because it's just been that one note for so many decades, we've lost the ability for people to visit here and actually get the history component. now that that's shifted, man, we're really at the start of something awesome.
The good thing about it being one of only 3 National Historic Landmark districts is no matter how fancy they try to make Ybor City, or no matter how much they want to build new development, it will never be Coca-Cola presents Ybor City. It will always be Ybor City.
Architecturally, too.
Architecturally, they can't change anything. Not only that, you can't change these streets, the curbs that are made out of granite. You can't knock down a building and try and build something that's, a big triangle or something like that. You have to have it fit in if you're building a brand new building. That Casa Pedroso, it looks just like that building right there. And that building's from, I don't know, 1920 something, but it was built in 2021, Casa Pedroso.
We've got a guy like Daryl Shaw who recognizes all of that. He knows this history. He recognizes the importance of keeping it look and feel a certain way, while also recognizing the reality of a growing city and different businesses. And I mean, the fact that Daryl has made a dedication to spend the extra money to make those buildings look like they're 120 years old. Right. I mean, that shows you that he really cares, right?
I know a lot of people, like I said, I talk to people from all walks of life, whether they're doing karaoke right there, or they're, trying to, put together a beautiful pork chop on a dish.
Yep.
All of them, they have different perspectives, and they all know Daryl Shaw. They know who that is. If you don't know who that is, you ain't been to Ybor City.
Right.
So some of them go, I don't like what he's doing. And I go, if I was a billionaire, I'd probably do the exact same thing he's doing.
Yeah.
I would throw my money into this town, and he's not going to see a return on investment on most of this for maybe his lifetime. But he's investing in a place that he believes in, that he loves, and he knows that this place, I mean, I've sat down with Daryl many times. I've told him, and he agrees, this should be a marquee spot in Florida. When you come to Florida, you shouldn't be going, oh yeah, Disney World. Oh yeah, Miami. And then that's it. You should be going, Ybor City. You must go see Ybor City.
When people are against the change and they have that question about identity, what do you perceive, or what have they told you they're afraid of happening?
People are afraid of change. I mean, every turtle in a pond is going to say, this pond ain't what it used to be. You know what I mean? Like, the change itself is going to happen in anywhere you go. And everybody that you'll ever talk to goes, the best time in Ybor City's history was my time in Ybor City history. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's going to change as we change too. It's not always going to be, but the cool thing about what Daryl's doing is, like I said, with everything that he's doing with the development around it, gasworks and all these condos popping up, there is still going to be karaoke. Yeah. There is still going to be Duamici right there serving slices at 3 a.m. It's going to always be Ybor City.
I think what people are afraid of is it will look like any other street in America, meaning, oh, there's a Subway and there's a frickin',
We never used to have like the Jimmy John's and stuff like that, and Buffalo Wild Wings is gone now, but I was always like, who would go to, nothing against B-dubs, like I've been to them before, but like who would, if you came to Ybor City, why are you going to Buffalo Wild Wings? You know what I mean?
Because you recognize it and it's familiar, and I think that it's very enticing for real estate people to, we can get a Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's, it's like an easy, deal to make.
17 other places around there that you could get wings at. Anyway,
but,
you know what I mean?
But I think that is the fear. It won't feel like Ybor, man. Right. And that's a big fear of mine too. As the neighborhood grows, is like, dude, I want to bring my son there and my grandchildren there and show them the same way it looked when I was a kid, and the same way it looked when my father and grandfather were there, and all that sort of stuff. And I'm confident that that will happen.
Yeah.
I really am.
It's preserved.
I think that there's things initially when this whole sort of revitalization attempt got announced that maybe went too far. Right. And Daryl actually talked about that on the show, where it's like, change will occur in an organic nature, and certain businesses have their place in this community. Yeah. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it was something about that, where it's like, maybe he went too fast and too hard initially. And there's a recognition for like taking care of certain areas and lifting the entire community up. Mm-hmm. He did talk about that. And I think business owners appreciate that, right? Yeah. Like, we have to recognize that there is a gap period, like I said, in Ybor's history, but in that gap period, man, there's businesses that have been successful for 30 years, right? And they see something happening and changing, and they're like, "What the f, man?"
Gotta go with the flow, man. You got to jump on the train, or it's gonna pass.
You got to give them some grace, though, because although the change is occurring and happening, those people have planted a flag and been successful for decades.
Well, look at when I first started doing tours here 10 years ago, we were like the only tour in town.
Yeah.
Now, as Tampa's growing, like, we're growing too. We have a lot of new tours that we're doing. We're excited. We're growing too. But like, I'll talk to some of my other guys. Like, it's a little slower than it used to be. It's like, well, look at what we have to compete with. There's like dinner tours now on the cruise ships.
I want to
like
ask you about that though, man, because I feel like on one side of it, there's something to be appreciated about people loving the history so much so that there's other tours. I mean,
look, there's nothing wrong. If a Domino's Pizza opens up down the street from Eddie and Sam's, they're not going to care because they got the good sauce. And I got the good sauce.
Exactly.
Like when the golf cart goes by, if you want to enjoy the golf cart tour, that's a great way to see Armature Works and Amalie Arena and drive through Ybor City. But if you want to go in the buildings and touch the brick and hear the stories, you got to come with me. And honestly, we all kind of started scratching each other's back. I mean, there's a lot of, like, the Tampa Theater does their own tour, and I do a ghost tour that starts outside the Tampa Theater. So what I do is I go, by the way, they do a tour here. You should come here and see this place. You can go, enjoy the place. I have no affiliation with the University of Tampa's museum, the Henry Plant Museum. I have no affiliation with them.
Yeah.
But I tell everybody on my tour, you have to go see it.
I love that collaboration. Yeah. Again, that's what Ybor City was, man. We talked today about the history. We talked today about different people from different cultures with different businesses getting together for the common good.
As it should be.
I think that's what's being expressed today in 2025 in Ybor, in this neighborhood. I mean, we've got mise en place, right? This very, fancy, beautiful Michelin star restaurant coming to Ybor. Who would have thought? Hotel Hyatt and the Gonsmarts doing their thing on the east side. I mean, we haven't even talked about some of the exciting stuff to come on the east side.
Exactly.
And it's all good, man, as long as we're all, people just need to remember that we're on the same team.
Right.
And I talked about this with Josh Pardue on the show about the businesses that are threatened, marketplace, like business threatened by competition, and what they can do as the neighborhood grows and transitions. And he's like, if you're a tattoo shop, be the best tattoo shop.
Exactly.
Right? Like, if you're a tour guide, be the best tour guide. Like,
give them something they can't get anywhere else.
Use the fact that people want to know more about the history of Ybor City and the fact that the neighborhood is growing and there's more diversity to the neighborhood as an advantage to yourself to collaborate and to grow and to improve. And let's make this the most significant, historic, amazing neighborhood in the country.
Right.
Like, there's a real opportunity to grow something in Ybor City that is unbelievably unique.
Right.
You said it's what is it? One of three.
One of three historic districts in Florida.
That's Florida.
Huge. That's huge.
And what are the other two? Probably St. Augustine.
And then there's some Admiral homes around the Panhandle that were used during the Civil War to sway the war back towards the Union. To get that designation, you have to change the course of American history. And, we've talked about with what we did with the Spanish-American War and whatnot. We changed the course of American history. And sure, that's fascinating that the Civil War happened in the Panhandle. Then also St. Augustine, very fascinating the way it was developed. But in my opinion, Ybor City is the best kept secret in the South. So many people who come on my tour, they're like, I would have just drove down 7th Avenue and thought, look how cute it is. And then they come on my tour and they go, oh my God, I've brought people to tears. No, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I have brought people to tears at the end of my tour going, this needs to be a movie. There needs to be more about this place.
Well, you're very good at what you do, and I think that that's why people should go on a tour with you, because you're expressive and you're like, we kind of talked before we went live about how you can find this shit on Wikipedia.
AI could do some of these stories.
Yeah, like,
they could just be like, "Oh, this building was built in 19," and then they can tell you what it is today, what it used to be. You could walk around and do everything you wanted to right there on your phone. But if you're on my tour, you're in a movie about Ybor City. You're engulfed in the culture. I have keys to places that no one else does. So I bring you into these places that you would have just walked by and been like, how pretty from the outside. You're going to go inside and see what they wanted you to see when you were exclusively allowed in the building.
So how many tours do you have now? Because we haven't even spoke about the ghost component.
Oh, yeah, I know. We did the ghost tour stuff before, but I mean, let's see. I got the Ybor History Tour, Ybor Ghost Tour, Downtown History Tour, Downtown Ghost Tour. And yeah, if you want to go to tampabay-tours.com.
And new tours to come too, right?
New tours to come. Like I said, we're collaborating with the University of Tampa, and I'm starting a podcast too.
Hell yeah!
We talked about we talked about competition here. No, our podcast is going to be very different than yours. What we're doing is it's called the Bermuda podcast. Me and a guy named Taylor Durden, which some Ybor locals will definitely know that name. He's kind of a legend. That's me on Charlie Belcher. But we decided we called it Bermuda for a reason, because it was like, this is almost like a Bermuda Triangle of weirdness. Not just the weird history of Ybor, but like stuff that people can talk about, on the down low a little bit,
Well, I mean, dude, with like the tunnels and the mafia and the
or think about how
the
many people
horror
have stories. I was talking to a guy who was like, yeah, I used to be an artist here in the 1980s. And one day this punk was off the train and he was trying to make a name for himself. So he threw some coffee in a girl's face and the whole town wanted to beat him. And one of the beat cops took him off the situation and was like, look, I'm going to give you a ticket out of town. You get out of here before you're killed in those streets. I mean, like stories like that.
Christ.
You know what I mean? Like it was, well, first of all, it was a community, but like everybody has a weird story. And if you could find somebody who, you know, made a name for himself from 84 till 89, and they're like, well, whatever happened to that guy?
So I love this.
You know what I'm talking about?
So you're going to highlight maybe some of those businesses and those people that we just talked about.
We just the gaps in time that
I
like
love that.
Everybody knows about the Colombia, everybody knows about the Cuban club. What happened in between?
So how are you guys gonna do it? I mean, I know you have an Instagram page.
Right. It's Ybormuda.podcast. Literally, we haven't even done our first episode yet, but it's me and my buddy. We were just chatting it up over cigars and talking about like, man, we somebody should be telling these stories that we both know that like you can't really talk too much about on Instagram and Facebook because people are gonna go, you know, Max, you're running a business. You shouldn't really, you know, get. Like, I'll let Taylor, by the way, weird guy, great guy, covered in tattoos. He's like my anti-Max. He's the opposite of me, but we're good friends.
So Taylor might be someone that feels this change and is a little bit concerned about the future.
Yeah, and his wife works in Ybor City.
You guys should both come back, man, on the podcast. I would love to. Yeah, when you guys are like ready
once
to roll.
Once we get rolling, yeah, we'll
for
get a couple
sure. Come back. I love that conversation about this transition, and I don't want those stories to be lost either. I don't want the last 40 years to be lost. Like that's a part of history too, man.
You know, there's so many people that can tell you, and you know, the thing that I bring to it is like, of course, he'll have some crazy stories of his own because he's a little older than me. He's known the characters that have come on, the bikers and the badasses. And while I was like the nerdy kid going like, hey, did you know that this happened at 21? He was in the back alleys getting in fist fights with people and stuff. So it's like, you know, he can tell that side of it while I tell how it all connects, you know. I think it's, you know, it's a pretty good idea that we're putting together.
And you're going to toss in a little history as well.
Of course, yeah. It's all going to be mixed together like the culture itself.
I love that, man. I try to support any podcast in the area. I think it's an awesome way to share information. If more people know about the history and what has happened where, and Casa Martí, who the hell was Martí, right? Mm-hmm. Like that is so important to creating an identity. Back to your question, right? Like that's how you ingrain an identity. And, you know, maybe like New York is the Big Apple. Well, we're the Big Guava, like, and we're the big deal, right?
Yeah.
Down
we're
in the
Latin
South.
Quarter compared to the French Quarter, you know?
Exactly, man.
Yeah, but, you know, we're coming up with new ideas. Like I said, we have a food tour of Ybor City. It's by appointment only now because honestly, I'm hiring guides too. If anybody out there is looking, you know.
Shout out to who are you looking for? Enthusiastic.
Historic, enthusiastic. I have, let's see, I got 6 guides that work under me right now. All of them are very different from each other. Some are artists, some are actors, some are just people who lived in Ybor for so long they have stories up their sleeve, you know, that kind of thing. But every one of them is different. And I tell people, if you enjoyed my tour, go with Charlie, go with Steve, go with Joe, go with these guys, Roseanne, all of them.
You'll get a different experience.
Exactly. You'll get a different perspective. So I'm looking for, and I've interviewed many people, and by the end of the day or week, I'll go, it's not really going to happen. So best of luck to you. You know, I want to make sure that anybody that I have doing tours for me are the same kind of quality. Like if you go through our reviews, you'll see my name a lot, but you'll see other names too. Like this was an experience. What a great tour guide. This was great. And it's different names throughout the whole thing.
Talk to me about the food tour. Is that new?
Yeah. Started it just last year because somebody just asked me about a food tour and I was like, you know, I can do it. Yeah, there you go. I can do a food tour of Ybor City or whatever you'd like to. You can learn a little something. And we do go through the history of it, but
who made that Cuban sandwich? Is that Segunda?
Yeah, that was Segunda, but we don't go to Segunda. It's a little out of the way, but you know, that's a Segunda sandwich.
Dude, that one looks very
perfect,
good,
doesn't it? But yeah, we talk about not only the history of this place, and we go through, like I said, to historic stops and whatnot, but we also want to make sure that you get the flavors of Ybor City.
Yeah.
All of our nice awards there. But you know, it comes with the German aspect of it. We partnered with Barry House Brewery. You've probably heard of them. And Tampa Bay Brew Company helps out with us once in a while too. And then from there we go through like the history of the Cuban sandwich. We go to some of the historic sites. We see some Cuban food, yellow rice, beans, all that.
How do people book it? Like if do you need to book it online? Can you just show up?
You can either just contact me directly. If you see contact us, if you go all the way to the bottom of the page too, I'll have my cell phone, my email, all that jazz is there.
Hit them up, people. Yeah. If you've moved to Tampa or even if you've lived here, I mean, there's people that probably have lived here for a long time that haven't taken a tour like this.
Exactly.
You know,
I get that a lot too. People that are like, man, I grew up here. I know everything about it. And then they'll come on my tour and go, I knew nothing. You know,
David, you had an awesome story. Are you mic'd up today? People probably can't hear you, but David brought his family. They're all from Washington State.
Oh.
And I think they have like a house in Northport, some family in Northport, something like that. They know of Ybor, right? They know of Tampa. But since David moved here in December, he brought his family and they were like, dude, like, this is awesome. Why did we not know about this before? You know, I think people that are familiar with Tampa, maybe people that have even lived here for years and years, maybe they were even born here, they probably go on the tour too.
Yeah.
And they learn something and they're surprised as well.
The other cool thing is I've had people that have come on my tours 6, 7 times because they'll have someone come visit and they'll be like, hey, man, I got a great idea. It's like watching your favorite movie again, but you get to bring a new person in to watch it.
Yeah.
And think about people who have destination weddings here. Hotel Haya, you know, places around the area that have wedding venues for them. They'll put together the whole bridal group wants to go on a food tour, but the groom group wants to go on the ghost tour. We have discounts for like many people if you put together a big group. If you book more than one tour, you get discounts. You know, it's
and you can book it on your website.
Yep,
pretty easily.
You can book it on the website.
Then you've got the calendar, different times.
Dude, I'm
all
not
that sort of
I'm not shy about it either. I put my personal email and my cell phone up there for people to, if you ever want to reach out to me. I prefer text, but if you call me and it goes to voicemail, I'll get back to you.
Do you ever like have like a company have like 20 people come for like a private? You do private tours too?
All the time, especially when it gets to be a little bit nicer out. It's a good way to do a company outing that's not just, hey, open bar, man. It's like you do a 90-minute tour, you have some fun, and then we all get to go discuss it at the bar. Hey, what'd you think about that story? Hey, did you know about this? Can you believe that happened here? And it makes people get a little bit more meshed together.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Bonding over history.
And like I said, discounts for big groups.
And then your busy season is probably when it's cool and nice out, right?
Starts in September because the ghosts start stirring. You know, Halloween season comes around. They all want to. We're the only tour in Tampa that has access to the Cuban Club. And we have a key to it. In the Cuban Club, in case you didn't know, it's been on the Ghost Hunters. It's been on all the Dead Files. All these different TV shows have come visited and saw the Cuban Club. We have a key to it, meaning you're not just like nothing against other tours, but like I've been in tours where I'm like, this really crowded bar is haunted. And it's like, yeah, but everybody's here. You know, we're going in there with just us, ghost hunting equipment. We lock you in and then explore and see what you can find after you hear the stories of the murder, the mayhem, the mafia. So the ghost tour, that gets us rolling through September till, honestly, I got 13 people booked tonight on the ghost tour.
It does feel like an antique, I don't know, some weird haunted mansion vibe in the Cuban Club, right?
If I've ever been in a haunted building, it's the Cuban Club.
Yeah.
I've seen them in there.
Some of the
No, really?
Well, on your Insta, you post some of those photos.
On the
and
Ybor
some of
City
them, I look at your photos and I'm like, okay, that kind of does look like a ghost right there.
That's the thing is I'll have a lot of people, they'll send me a photo. I'm like, that's a photo of a bug. But I'll tell them honestly too. But if I get something good, I share it on the Ybor City Ghost Tour Instagram. So
shout out all your socials because you've got a few different things going on.
Tampa Tours Max is my personal one. And from there, you can pretty much find most of them. Tampa Tours Max, pretty easy to find. After that, you go, you got Ybor City Ghost Tour. That's the Ghost Tour one for Ybor City. I got Ybor City Walking Tour. That's the history one. Downtown Tampa Ghost Tour. That's my downtown one. And then the Ybor Muta podcast. It's ybormuta.podcast.
We're gonna have you back on to talk about that with your partner,
with Taylor,
with your co-host Taylor.
Yeah, that's the walking tour one. Yeah, kind of have the guy up there, Scott, and I love that picture of the kid with the cigar in his mouth. That's one I pinned that one.
Dude, what was that vibe? Right? Was it like, oh, the kid's just sitting around all day? Yeah, he's 12. Let's put him in the factory. He needs to make some money too.
You got your apprenticeship around 10. You know what I mean? It was like
that's so crazy.
It was definitely something pretty fun.
Look at that, smoking the cigars too, man.
I know, and rolling. I mean, they had tiny hands. They could roll it pretty good. I bet.
Look at that photo.
Yeah,
what a great picture. That's iconic, so cool, man.
And that's the way it was. Because, back in the day, and I remind people, like, dude, when you were a little kid, as soon as you could walk, you could work. Like, if it was cleaning the outhouse.
Well, now in Florida, too, right? With our new child labor laws.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Good luck, kids.
See you in the factory, kids.
See you out there. Hey, I think JC Newman's hiring if you want to start rolling cigars.
Yeah, maybe our state government was inspired by this photo, Max. I don't know.
My bad, everybody. Sorry about that. But
do we know who these kids are? I mean,
I wish I did.
Do we have
if
a
anybody
story?
Has the information.
Yeah.
It's just the way it was. That wasn't unusual to see back then.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you started working around 10. I mean, you start as a stripper, and no, not the kind you think of, not the ones on Dale Mabry. You start as one that would rip the leaves off the stem, and that job sucked. you're getting spiders and splinters all the time. It's like
from the boat when the tobacco first came
from
in.
Cuba. Your job was literally take it out of the barrel, rip the leaves off, put them in a big box, throw the stems away. And then the big box would go to the sorters, which you had to know somebody to become a sorter. You had to really, it was a masterful
That
craft.
was a big deal right there.
Smelling tobacco, feeling it, putting it together. But the rollers, if you finished your year's apprenticeship, you could become a roller.
I would imagine the roller, that role was someone who could just, hey, how many can you roll? Exactly. About nothing else.
And it was about
how
quality
many
too.
Can you roll?
They'd give you probably a number or like a symbol or something. Be like, hey man, number 34, you've been slipping. You need to get that back up and fix that. Or they'd be like, hey, number 16's really doing well. You know, we should put him in a different chair closer to the lector so he could hear the story better. You get rewarded as you were better at it.
So the children, I mean, were they in a special area or were they in the...
I don't know for sure, but I doubt it. I mean, literally, it was like I said, black, white, male, woman,
kids,
13 or 35. If your elbow didn't hit mine while we were rolling, you could roll. But I'm betting these kids, if I had to guess, they were probably buddies. You know, you always find friends where you work.
True. God, they're young too.
I know.
They can't. They're not. I mean, I would even say 9, 10?
I talk to people and they'll say my great grandfather rolled cigars for 45 years or something, or 60 years or something like that. It's like, whoa.
Do you get some legacy people in your tours too? Like,
all the time.
Hey, I'm from Dayton, you know, but my grandfather's from here. I wanted to come see my heritage.
Especially people from South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. They'll go, I'm half Cuban. I speak a little Spanish. My abuela used to tell me stories while I sat on her knee about Ybor City. And then they'd come see it, and they'd be like, well, I wanted to take a tour and get the engulf myself in the culture. They come on my tour, and those are the ones especially that bring people back.
Did you see the video of Cameron Diaz talking about
yeah, man.
her grandfather
used to roll cigars in Ybor?
See if you can find that video, David. I saw that someone sent that to me.
It's incredible to think about.
And I was like, holy shit, that's crazy.
Well, think of the names
Diaz,
that came
right?
Yeah, Diaz. But of course, she was a major star in movies. But think of how many names like in baseball that came out of Ybor City. Tony La Russa. There's a great photo of him, which would be hard to find. But on his picture day for school, his mom wanted him to wear a suit, and he cried and cried and cried. He wanted to wear his baseball outfit. And there's a picture of him like in the baseball outfit like this, and he's like 6 or something. And I mean, there's so many big names that came out of this place.
The Cameron Diaz one is really interesting. And I wonder if you know, as she maybe digs more into that, and she would come and do a tour and like visit.
I've met her twice.
Yeah, play this video. Play it from the beginning.
You know, before coming here, one of the biggest questions that a lot of our users were asking were about your heritage.
My father's Cuban.
Okay.
Yeah, my father was Cuban, Spanish via Cuba to Tampa, Florida, where my family came many generations ago, back at the turn of the century, Spanish-American War. They went to Tampa and were cigar rollers. That was the first Cuban settlement before Miami. Outside of Cuba was in Tampa, Florida, in a place called Ybor City. And Ybor, they still have some cigar factories there to this day, that some rollers still there, some cigars that are rolled there. But my family were cigar rollers, and I have all of my abuelos, like my great grandfather's, all his cigar presses and choppers and everything. And so, so so I grew up with the Cuban heritage, the Cuban culture, the food, the language, although I don't speak Spanish. I can barely speak English, honestly, but you know, that's basically where.
Dude, that is amazing.
That is pretty
wild.
That's
crazy. And she knows her shit too.
Yeah, that's why I said, hey, if she's not doing anything, I'm hiring guys.
You imagine?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, retiring.
Yeah,
why not do this?
Wait, you're my tour guide? Didn't I see you in the mask? Yes, you did.
That was she's got a mustache on. That
was
someone
a whole
else.
different person.
Whole different person. Max, thank you for kicking it with me today. This has been fun, bro.
It's always fun.
It is always fun.
We got to have some cigars soon, hang out.
We do.
Catch up a little bit.
And follow up on that show. I love the idea of doing a dedicated show specifically about Ybor and some of those untold stories.
Right.
Those need to get told too.
The weird things of Ybor
The
City.
weird things, man. The weird things. Hey, next weekend, this weekend, the weekend after that. I hope it stays weird.
Oh, it's gonna.
I want to say that too.
Ybor, like I said, will always have its identity, and as long as Ybor's kicking, I'm gonna be walking around it.
We're a culture of partiers, bro. Tampa people are pirates. We're partiers.
Dude.
Like, this is where all the mayhem occurred. It's always been that way. I mean, my dad has stories of 1970s Gasparilla, and it was like way crazier.
I bet you those stories are a little crazy too, because everything was way pure back then. You know, it was like everybody was having fun. Everybody was like, "There's no cameras anywhere. Do what you want."
Can you imagine?
Oh God, if these walls could talk.
All right. Thanks again, man.
I'm in.
We'll see you next time.
Good
All
to
right.
see you.
Bye, everybody.